Hey guys, it's Layla Klon, and today I'll be doing the systems for touch and pressure. I'll be talking about two pathways. Both are to do with touch and pressure. One is called the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway, and the mnemonic is dogs can't gasp. And the D in dogs stands for the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway, and the second one is to do with the trigeminal nerve, and is the mnemonic is make time matter. And we take the M from make and substitute it here for main sensory trigeminal pathway. Now this is the cranial analog of dorsal column. All right, so let's start. Now C stands for the tracts that we will come across here, and also G. Sorry, these two are the two tracts that take part in this pathway. So because it's sensory, so touch and pressure, you feel things, it needs to end in the somatosensory cortex, and it needs to start at the lower spinal cord level. So here we have the spinal cord. Okay, we can draw it like this. All right, now this dorsal column, so this is the posterior side, right? Now this is the posterior white column, and this one gives off two tracts. Now this one comes from the lower body, and this would be our fasciculus gracilis, and from the upper body, let's say this one would be our fasciculus cuneatus. Okay, and they go to their nuclei, which is situated in the medulla, which I'm going to draw as a circle. So that's our little medulla, and these tracts go to their nuclei. Now this would be the cuneate nucleus, right? And this would be a gracile nucleus. After they've gone to the medulla, they cross over in the medulla. This crossing over is known as the decussation of the medial lemniscus, which is important. So decussation at the level of the medial lemniscus, which is why it's mentioned in the name. And this decussation is caused by small fibers known as the internal arcuate fibers. All right, now from this decussation, from the medulla, it goes on to the thalamus, and this is a square. That's our dear little thalamus, and the nuclei would be the ventro, postero, lateral nucleus of the thalamus. From here, it needs to end in the somatosensory cortex, SS1, postcentral gyrus, right, in our little brain. But before this, it needs to cross the internal capsule. So it goes here, and let's say this is our internal capsule, and then it goes here, right? But in the internal capsule, it crosses the posterior limb of the internal capsule, and that would be a dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. One thing you should know is that from the spinal cord to the medulla, this is the first order neuron. Okay, from the medulla to the thalamus would be a second order neuron, and from the thalamus to the somatosensory cortex would be a third order neuron. Now we start with our next system to do with the trigeminal nerve. And okay, so we have the starting point, which would be the pseudo-unipolar neurons in the trigeminal ganglion. Pseudo-unipolar neurons in the trigeminal ganglion. That would be a starting point. Then from here, it goes to the main sensory trigeminal nucleus in the pons, because the trigeminal nucleus is situated in the pons. So I'm going to draw it as a, no, that's just, okay, just put a triangle, that's our pons. With the main sensory trigeminal nucleus here, I'm going to write MST, nucleus. Okay, from here there is another decussation like the previous one. This one would be the trigeminal decussation. That's our T in time. Trigeminal decussation, which occurs, and it's called the Trigeminal Lemniscus, like the medial lemniscus. From here, from the pons, it goes to the thalamus, which is our square. The same nucleus, VPMN nucleus. Then it goes through the internal capsule, same posterior limb, and it's literally like the dorsal column, and it goes to the somatosensory cortex. And this tract is known as the ventral trigeminal tract. Okay. Now, there's a small part of proprioceptive fibers, and these, it's the same pathway, but instead of landing in the main sensory trigeminal nucleus, they land in the M, which would be the mesencephalic or cephalic nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. And this tract would be called the dorsal trigeminal tract. Rest, everything is the same. And if there were any motor, there was a motor function from the temporomandibular joint or the muscles of the face, it would go to the motor nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, and that would be it. Those are our two systems. You need to know that the mesencephalic nucleus carries proprioceptive fibers from the temporomandibular joint and the muscles of the face. Okay, and that's the main sensory one. So those are our three pathways. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. That's our T and our M. Okay, take care guys. That's the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. So you start from the mechanoreceptors or the proprioceptors. Those are the receptors or the sensory organs. Then you have the first order neurons. They're all afferent. It's an afferent system because it's going from the spinal cord to the somatosensory cortex. So that would be the dorsal column. In the medulla, you have the decussation. It goes to the thalamus and it ends in the somatosensory cortex. This is the main sensory trigeminal pathway. So again, you've got the receptors over here. Here is the pons where there's the decussation. There's the trigeminal lemniscus. You go up, you have the ventral trigeminal tract, the dorsal trigeminal tract, and the end in the thalamus and the somatosensory cortex.